me, Lord. I'm going to sing Walk With Us, Lord. It's us, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Walk with us, Lord. Yeah. Walk with us. Walk with us. Everybody standing here, Lord, walk with us. While we can't be silent anymore. Walk with us, Lord. Walk with us. Hold our hand, Lord. Hold our hand. Hold our hand. Hold our hand. While we cry, but we're not silent. While we hurt, but we won't be pushed back. Hold our hand, Lord, hear my cry. Hold my hand.
Yes, Lord. Man.
Reality hides behind tired eyes. Everything taken but essence and soul and faith and perseverance. Enough to make another day. Though cold and wrong, here we are today. Soul catching. Soul catching, light, lines, wires, wise. Now it's time. We are in dire. Ancestors weep, we dance. Whose chance? Ashe. In us is power of circumstance. The rope is in need of security, and coons and capitalists want to emulate royalty, not knowing you exude from within. And where are our leaders? Who are our kin? Who can we trust when we can't no more, no longer trust within? Distracted, distraught, and lacking, caught, look back and learn, understand and earn. The blood and criticism, lack of knowledge, yearning for all this shit to be abolished comes from a place in history, places they no longer teach. You got to research and read, pass it along so we can all learn and see. We all know how technologies that our ancestors would do well to respect. Don't neglect. Crack babies, black on, war on drugs, and lack of mental stability. Homeless, catch a ball and dance for a band. Motherfuckers is stuck on lean and can't read, wondering why they gotta pretend they royalty. 1800s, Tennessee whiskey, miss me with the bullshit. No one missed this, but your people dismissed it. Rewrite for a pro. Creation in its infinite Willie Lynch me syndrome must be Tuskegee. Suffering, smelling burnings and dust. Lust for dark skin, breasts, and summer southern musk. The disgust. Feel the fire. Pain. Rain. Again and again the ships came. Across the middle passage, 3 months worse than any lashes. Taken by the sea, who remembers me? Crack and bleed the fathers that be. Freedom is mentality. Take the language, the fruit is still in me. Give me chains, the spirit lives in me. The spirit.
Yo, Shackles on my feet, smoke all around, dirt in my face, my blood on the ground. Slave to the trade, trapped in my conscience, escaping away. This ain't nothing but a mind game, underground railroad slaves on the loose. The chains on the neck symbolizes the noose. Work in the fields under that sun, playing in the escape, waiting till the night comes. Dogs on the hunt, my people on the run. Bullet in the back from a slave owner's gun. Lynches on the trees, got us on rage, but they don't care about us, they just throw us in the cage. Lashes on our back, caused by the whip. Masters getting on our nerves, but we can't quit. He can sell my body, but my soul's not for sale. I gotta make it through heaven, cause I'm going through hell. Cause my spirit, I can hear it. I'm right near it. And I'm black and proud, so I'ma give my reparations right now. Spirit, 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 the spirit, spirit, live, and me, spirit, spirit lives in me. Spirit, 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 the spirit, spirit, the spirit, spirit lives in me.
1800s, Tennessee whiskey, miss me, bullshit. No one missed this, but your people missed it. Rewrite for a pro. Creation in its infinite Willie Lynch me syndrome must be Tuskegee, suffering, smelling, burnings and dust, lust for dark skin, breast and summer, southern musk. The disgust, feel the fire, pain, the rain, again and again. The ships came, crossed the middle passage, 3 months worse than any lashes. Taken by the sea, who remembers me? Crack and bleed, the fathers that be. Freedom is mentality. Take the language, the fruit is still in me. Give me change. The blood and criticism, lack of knowledge, yearning for all this shit to be abolished, comes from a place in history, places they no longer teach. You got to research and read and pass it along so we can all learn to see. We all now have technologies that our ancestors would do well to respect. Don't neglect. Crack babies, black on, war on, drugs, and lack of mental stability. Homeless, catch a ball and dance for a band. Motherfuckers are stuck on lean and can't read, wondering why they gotta pretend they royalty. Light, lines, wires, wise. Now it's time. And we are in dire. And we are in dire. Ancestors weep. We dance. Ancestors weep. We dance. Whose chance? Ashe. In us is power of circumstance. The spirit lives in me. 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 The spirit lives in me.
My dark skin, my dark eyes is not the opposite of humility. My DNA's been equipped with humility since the crack of the first whip in their attempt at killing the black in me. My ancestry, you keep testing me, wanting to see the flex in me. That's the Malcolm X in me. But even my silent protest incite violence. That's the Martin Luther King in me, and the slave songs is still singing.
They don't care about the looting. They don't care.
Unbold, not hateful. Inside, not shameful. Reshared ungratefulness, suspenseless, indirect neglect, homeless.
Slavery never ended, just evolved.
A nation needs change from my sublets. Unchain the mind frame of unclean, insane, deframed. Incest at best, no less than duress, no less than confess. Ungood, not hood, I'm good, I stood, we stand. This land is ours, mine, their land. We built this nation so you can cause a sensation of degradation. Constant compartmentalized frames of chained minds, dripped in capital, devoid of actual. The world is dying and we dying with it. This nation is corporate. Our price is rewarded with strife, heartache over heartache.
But we live in a country where we're constantly fighting. What the fuck is freedom? Where the fuck is the land of freedom? I mean, is there a subscription plan?
When they call, I pack the group, cause we got work to do. Heartache over heartache, unafraid, not deframed. Unchained, not behaved. In my lane, I'm insane. To you, cause you won't move. When they call, I pack the group.
Complain? Black man, now you acting like the victim. The diversity's messing up the system. Go to school, read a book, but only what's in the Common Core depiction. Medicate non-compliance till they all conform to one complexion. Got convictions? Black men go to church. Jesus will fix it. But even in the house of worship, the devil finds a way to slip in. The design is flawless. The prophets told us in the last day people would be lawless. The claws rent, retreating to vices. Frustrated like this is what life is? This is a crisis.
Still being manipulated, brutally incarcerated, death by human nature, back with no autopsy papers. Someone being the hater, or the dumbest of it all, a piece of paper that the congregation of this world shoved down our throats. All to hold power through material manipulation. Surprise, material segregation. Enough to make your own people hate you. Why they laugh in our faces?
Boots on the ground, set your rules, pay your dues. Cause a mama lost her baby, only God can take me. Not just my choices, my voices can shape me. The world will hear it if we make it. Don't just hate it and debate it, be about it and come help change it. I know we will win if we arm with knowledge and we can.
Bloodthirsty, lustful, ignorant, bitch ass niggas. Bloodthirsty, lustful, ignorant, bitch ass niggas. The slugs don't love us.
I choose to be a journalist because I wanted to become the voice of the voiceless in our community. Reading, writing, and research is something that I really admire and do. I love to understand and have the concept of what's happening around in the community that I'm staying in, all around the world, with people, with everything that's going on, with history being made, national treasures, things like that. So I became a journalist to become closer to the heart of the world, honestly. And it's a never-ending job, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I just want to wake up on CP time and spend my weekend in Dubai because I know I deserve that kind of life. But all my life I had to fight for what's right because I know I'm overqualified, but the white person in front of me gets a higher paid opportunity. Or when I wear my hair natural and free, they look at me like I'm crazy. And all my life I had to fight, water myself down because if I say too much, they automatically assume I want to fight. I just want to be me though. They like it better when I silence myself because they know if I speak, I can move mountains. So I stand tall like a tree and break these generational curses so my kids don't deserve that kind of life. I take the time to breathe and pray to the flowers and trees and gain mental clarity. Unblock my throat chakra, speak free, unapologetically me. But all my life I had to fight, victim to the black men that don't want to.
Just 3 generations ago, to be a beautiful dark brown girl raped by the headmaster at age 13 and made to have me, a mixed breed, was the right of the Lord, a decree by God. And still just as much a slave than not because of that one drop. I would have been the children of the plantation's children, both my parents mixed, an abomination on both ends of the stick. I ain't saying anyone had it worse, but don't act like us light skins ain't been getting burned for not being brown enough to have struggles, and then targeted for not being white enough. With me, everything doubles. Y'all might not like it, but I'ma shed light on the mulattoes because that's who I am. My lack of melanin don't make me subtle or confused. I have the right to be angry too, but I gotta be mad at white and black people. I'm considered both and neither, a team player and a cheater, a victim and a griever, disappointment and pleaser. This is me, a halfling. Everything I say is seen as gaslighting, and I'm fighting to be greater and lesser. I'm a peacemaker and aggressor. I got the blood of slaves and oppressors. Both my grandma's white. Both black granddaddies nowhere in sight. My mixed genes make me stop believing in wrong and right. I can only fight myself. Anything else is selfish in hell in my own shell. Can't tell what my own story is. Told to look at history, so I go to the Emancipation Proclamation when Abraham Lincoln declared the slaves were free on January 1st, 1863. But it was 2 years, 5 months, and 19 days until the last freed slaves would leave the plantation. Can you imagine the sensation? The last slaves. The last ones to liberate their minds just to be stuck in a nation full of hatred and pride and constantly attacked for the shade they have or the shade they lack. Now, I don't like math much, but something to me ain't adding up. Being mixed taught me that when something don't make sense, I gotta keep backing up. Being mixed taught me that our history in the 1800s ain't going far enough. Being mixed taught me to boil down our suffering to the bottom of the pain. Past the 1400s when Columbus came. Past the Bible, past the tribal. Being mixed taught me we are all liable. And the more I go back, the more I believe our history is undeniable. We just don't know. What's the point of me getting up here just to sugarcoat? Titanic ain't the only thing that got me scared to get on big boats. I'm haunted by loops and ropes and whatever got white people to start tripping in the first place. I heard black people were the first race. I heard white people were a mutation. I heard they were considered an abomination and shunned to the Caucasus Mountains. I heard black people were the first slave masters and counting, but there ain't no date on that, so we can't relate to that. We can't debate that. Ain't got nothing to show for our beliefs but books and stories. I wonder how many years it's going to take us to realize we still ain't free. We still under attack. We still trapped, arguing over the different shades we have. Forget a paper bag. I don't want to be white or black. I just want to be me in this time, in this space, in this color, but no race. No first, second, or third place. I've been finding comfort in the yin-yang, black and white. I can't get away from the balance of gray or I'll lose sight of my vision. I'll lose sight of my hope.
Jump up there and go pull it down on the head. Well, that's going to be an outro or intro to the song.
Elevate knowledge. Truth. Seek. You. Don't follow the paths already traveled when that road doesn't feel right. Sometimes don't follow the paths already traveled when that road doesn't feel right. Sometimes the way isn't forged and it takes trekking through the night. Know your truth. Gain refined and unique sight. Know your role. Know your truth, cause no one else can for you. They can only impose. Know your role. In this now. In this know. That you have power. You have right. Hell, you have sight. Use it. We're here, we're free. Freedom. What does it mean to you? Greetings and good vibes, y'all. Welcome back to the Leon Block. I'm your guy, John Tell. General George Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and delivered the news that effectively, immediately, the enslaved people of Texas were apparently so-called free. What they call freedom was finally coming to the approximately 200,000 African Americans that were held in bondage in Texas, but it came belatedly. Obviously, this is General Order 3 also stated, quote, "The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages." The fact that African American Texans were now free did not mean an automatic change in their circumstances, and the terms of their freedom actually encouraged dependence on the people that had exploited their labor for years. This clause reveals one of the central ironies and lessons of Juneteenth. Freedom is not the same as liberty. The work of full-scale liberation is a continuing and uncertain process that requires radical acts of faith, but also real and widespread structural change. In our current movement, we see so many signs that the structure has not changed, aside from the obvious and well-publicized cases of black murder at the hands of law enforcement and the judicial system. Coordinated attacks have been made against important civil rights legislation and the ability of citizens' votes to be counted. In so many ways, we are being encouraged to remain silent and collect wages while the real work of liberation remains to be done. But Juneteenth reminds us that until all of us are free, none of us are free. It is a day that should compel each and every human being to imagine and work towards a world where true liberty, not just state-sanctioned emancipation, is a reality for all. If it isn't just a day to cook out or listen to music. This is a day to reflect on the past and observe liberty. The movie 13th, the documentary directed by Ava DuVernay, discusses the U.S. prison system and reveals the history of racial inequality in the country. And it touches on the theme of incarceration as a form of slavery, given the loophole of the 13th Amendment. But this amendment may have abolished slavery, so-called, but the phrasing, quote, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall be duly convicted, and we'll get into that in a little bit, led to African-American males being arrested and convicted over minor crimes at a higher rate than white men. What is the meaning of like that curvature? Is there any kind of significance to that?
Yes, so that curvature represents a brand new horizon. So it's supposed to represent the sun. And you know, when you see this, especially even if you listen to the Black National Anthem, you know, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. When the sun rises, it's a curve. So that's what the curve represents. Is just looking beyond that horizon to what's next, right? Remembering the past, but knowing that every day that we're allowed to wake up is, you know, we're forging on. So that's what that curve represents.
And while we're at it, the colors, what are they?
So just about this flag in general, right? So this flag wasn't designed until 1997, right? So it's a fairly new flag, 25 years, almost hitting its 26th birthday. It was created in June 1997 by an activist by the name of Boston Ben. His real name is Ben Haif. He designed this flag because he himself has started to learn more about Juneteenth and the liberation of, you know, the last enslaved people out of Galveston, Texas. And he said we needed something that represented that, right? So in order to truly understand this flag, I feel, as with anything that's new, a lot is not done to dig up the past, right? So we just, you know, we want to know because it's something and it impacts us, but we don't really do due diligence as people overall when it comes to really digging into learning the historical impact of a thing. So for me, I learned about Juneteenth when I was in first grade because my teacher, Mrs. Smith, gave us a project to look up our birth date and tell her something significant about our birthday. So since I was in first grade, which was a very long time ago, I've known what Juneteenth was. And I took it as a mark of honor and great privilege to know that I was born on this day. And the day that I was born also happened to be Father's Day. So this Sunday is a complete replication of my exact birth, right? And it means a lot to me because it helped me develop this sense of courageousness about who I am. So anytime someone would ask me, oh, when's your birthday? My way of spreading with Juneteenth has always been to just tell people Juneteenth. I'll never give people the day. So somebody say, oh, well, what's that? Look it up. Right. So that's how I have been sharing what Juneteenth is since I was a child. And for me, it goes a little further than just June 19th, 1865. I feel like to really understand Juneteenth and why, because, you know, we've talked and I'm very adamant about this red, white, and blue, right? I despise with a passion Black, red, and green being utilized on Juneteenth because, yes, we have, you know, the Emancipation Proclamation, which did not free slaves. So I really need for people to stop giving Lincoln so much credit for that.
You don't get none. I've seen people call him the great emancipator. I'm like, what?
Yes, he did nothing, right? It was
didn't-
basically used as a bait for people to switch over to the Union. But I know it was a couple of months before he actually even said anything about it actually going into effect, because he was using it as if you don't join the Union, then I'm going to emancipate your slaves, right? And there is a comment that if he could have ended that civil war without freeing a single slave, he would have done that. So we as a people have to be very careful about casually inviting people to the proverbial cookout, right? There are selected states that are actually exempt from everything that's listed in the Emancipation Proclamation because they decided to join the Union. So they were able to keep their slaves that they had enslaved, right? So I won't go on a tangent of that, but we have to educate ourselves. But on over here, and at that time, we have, the general order is being, sounded off. So now these freed slaves that been migrated, because those that are in Texas originally weren't in Texas. People were migrating their slaves to Texas to escape the Civil War. So those slaves that were in Texas were from Mississippi, Georgia, Virginia, everywhere, right? And we have this general order, stating that these persons are free. Now, my thing is, if you really, really look at it, if the Emancipation Proclamation actually freed slaves, why did you need the 13th Amendment and a general order to further come along and say that they were free, right? So with these two orders, persons in the United States are no longer slaves. That's what we believe, right? But then you have that little language, except. Anytime something says except, that means that, so we're not really doing away with this. We're not doing away with this. We are just recategorizing it, right? So you're not a slave unless we make you property again. And how do we make you property again? By creating, punishments for things that are minute, such as not crossing the street in the crosswalk.
Yes.
So that we lock you up for things such as walking through the cotton field at 9 o'clock at night instead of 7 o'clock at night. So that we, think whatever it is that we
hold on real quick, because I was about to give you that outline because I knew you were going to go into it. So this is basically what Taslim is saying, is that we're going to basically walk you through from Juneteenth how this never ended, right?
Yes.
Because with the Civil War and with the abolition of slavery, quote unquote abolition, there was what was called the Reconstruction. And when I think of Reconstruction, I think of reconstruction of slavery. I think of how they found ways. So what you're now referring to is like the black codes.
Yes.
And we go from, and I'm gonna let you keep going, but we go from black codes to convict leasing to debt peonage to Jim Crow, and then to the war on drugs. So you were describing like some of the black codes that they used to lawfully be able to justify how they could lock up black people, to have them do the same very things that they were already doing. And like I pointed out before, a lot of when the general came through and he made that proclamation, he also stated that they were ordered to still stay on their farms and work. So how was what freedom is there?
None at all. None at all. Not only did they not have freedom, they didn't have liberty either, because like I said, liberty requires space and no oppression within that space. So it really was just words on paper, right? And so you still have chain gangs. You still have chain gangs today. But I go back to the colors because you asked me about the colors of the flag. And like I said, all of that relates to the colors of the flag right now. So if you look at Liberia's flag is red, white, and blue stripes with one star, right? So at this time, everyone in Liberia is aware of the fact that we're here as a product of being removed from America. Now, just imagine that this group right now is the descendants of two displaced populations, a population that's removed from Africa and placed in the United States, and then removed from the United States and placed back in Africa, but not where they were taken from, right? So you have this awareness, of we are Americans. We are Americans. right? If you look at the flags in Africa, I believe Liberia is maybe one of two flags that are red, white, and blue, right? And it matters. It all matters. It might not matter to people that are just, I'm black, red, and green in it. But for the most part, most people do not agree with the movement behind the black, red, and green flag. They have, once again, there's no historical.
What has changed in 2022? Police kill more black people than any other year.
It's time to bring Black Wall Street back.
But with the war on drugs,
corporate interest, the amount of violence
in the bank accounts of some of these activists.
color being hunted.
That Freedom Ring is
Tyree Nichols' death to young black men, and there literally nothing has changed. Police departments are fully funded. Anybody, that's easy. We do that 365 days a year, and on the leap year we do it 366.
I don't think this is what King had envisioned in his dream. There's so many uncut gems that need to be freed, thinking they unpolished when really they hold the most beauty. Laying silent, walked on as they awoke into a world still divided, thinking it's divisible when it should be united. Not seeing that pigment is just part of the evolution, like a chameleon forced to adapt to your surroundings. So why is color being hunted?
only thing that changed were the chains.
A riot is language of the unheard. It is a language of the poverty. It is an outward expression of aggression and microaggressions and pain that has been festering, and people have had enough. Don't you dare speak for other people when you don't know other people's experiences and you haven't lived it, because you won't step outside of your fucking development and your little bubble that you live in. You want to talk all the shit you want, have the opinion that you want, but step a foot in my shoes and understand what I've
6
been.
times 5 plus 9.
When you see the kind of things that people actually do destroy, they destroy corporate places. They destroy things that they're upset at and angry at. They destroy corporate America. And the things that they do loot are necessities and basic items that they need, like toilet paper and laundry. People have had enough. Don't you dare.
With the war on drugs, with the war on drugs,
with the war on drugs,
corporate
It's time to bring Black Wall Street
we're
back.
all disenfranchised. No.
To be a beautiful, dark brown girl raped by the headmaster at age 13 and made to have me a mixed breed was the right of the Lord, a decree by God. And still just as much a slave than not, because of that one drop, I would have been the children of the plantation's children. Both my parents knew. An abomination on both ends of the stick. I ain't saying anyone.
I chose to be an independent journalist because I believe in the power of people. I believe in the power of us sharing our stories. I believe in the power of finding common ground. And I believe in the power of solidarity to demand the changes that we need. And I believe that independent journalism empowers people by lifting up voices and sharing those stories to people who otherwise wouldn't hear them. And it helps us find that common ground that we never knew that we had until we heard the stories. That's where it all starts.
Praise God. Yeah, Don. It's a beautiful song.
Our black history will always be in misery. Only one thing that ever makes sense to me. Our ancestors died for us to live peacefully. Brought up in churches to never question things. School teachers teaching the basics of our necessities. History class only speak on segregation and slavery. Let's talk about some deeper things. How Martin had a dream and Malcolm knew there would be no peace. Flipping pages of a book that a white man is paid to proofread. With no real knowledge of how we went down in history. Black Wall Street shifted their energy. Seen that us blacks could amount to better things. Burned it all down to keep us in captivity. God save our people. God save our people. On your mark, get set. Get set. God save our people. Get set. Went from nooses around our necks and scars all on our back to chokeholds from police that swear to serve and protect. What kind of justice did we get? Oh, Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery was next. They can't breathe. They'll never breathe because of police brutality. Just wrote down as another nigga in our history. Nooses turned into diamond chains, keeping us enslaved with the goal of finding things. Is you working for it the right way? Not shooting your melanin sibling for gunplay? Black on black crime for more of us to die. Y'all niggas are clearly blind to the progress they programmed since the first projects. Process of elimination, disguised as manipulation. God save our people. God save our people. God save our people. On your mark, get set.
Yeah, Don.
God save our people. God save our people. God save our people. On your mark, get set. God save our people. God save our people.
It's a beautiful song right here.
Brothers killing each other with no hesitation. Focused on the clout, a little bit of paper. Not prepared for the reparations of their hatred. One black man dead in the other man cage. Meanwhile, the white man still gets paid. Gets away with vacation days. Our bloodshed is valuable in this country. We are still their property, and they're getting a monopoly. We each have 9 numbers attached to our names. Proof we are still enslaved. Let us step out of line like they say. They shooting us down and expect us to be okay. Hip-hop paved the way, gave us a voice to say what we gotta say. It don't mean a thing nowadays. Everybody rapping about the wrong things. God save our people. God save our people. God save our people. On your mark, get set. Shooting a brother cause it's gang. Ancestors rolling in their grave. Escape they pain for us to live better days. Black on black crime, millennial genocide. We're a danger to our own kind. Helping the white man complete their mission way before you and I ever existed. It's twisted. We die with pesticides running through our bloodline. Black on black crime is killing us faster than New York Times. If something doesn't change, it's all gonna go in vain. We all gonna be in a grave, one by one, still enslaved. I pray to God our melanin sisters and brothers change. Reach out and help us, God, before it's too late. No more killing for gunplay. We have enough of that based on our race. Our race we've been running since slavery days. God save our people. God save our people. God save our people.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
On your mark, get set.
It's a beautiful song. Praise God.
They paved the way for us to win what they faced. We got the baton. Now it's time for us to take our place. On your mark, get set.
Hi, my name is Matt. I chose to be an independent journalist because this world is so full of hatred, so full of discrimination, so lacking in love and understanding that we need the arbiters of justice like ourselves, the independent journalists and media reporters that cover the things that mainstream media likes to throw a narrative over. We are unbiased. We care about justice. We care about all social struggles. And we just want to see this country become a better place. America deserves to see unity and love and understanding on a national scale. So yes, Support independent media.
And I want to start off by saying I'm black and I'm proud. President Abraham Lincoln proclaimed that all blacks in the Southern Confederate States would be freed. However, this didn't happen. It would take 2 years for Texas to free the slaves only because of the Union troops who would march into Galveston, Texas, proclaiming that all blacks were free and that they should be paid for their work. This date was June 19, 1865, and it would be celebrated and known as Juneteenth. Today, I'm here to celebrate alongside you the independence of Black Americans. I ask you, the city of Red Wing, the community, are we currently equals? It has been over 150 years since President Lincoln signed his proclamation, and yet we continue to fight for equality. As a society, if we ever want there to be true equality, then there is much work to be done. Did you know that a famous court case leading to the Civil War and the eventual abolition of slavery had its roots right here in Minnesota? According to the following August 2019 Star Tribune article entitled, "Slavery Made Its Mark Here in Minnesota," it states, one of the major proclamations that sparked the Civil War, the infamous Dred Scott case, began on Minnesota soil. The litigation ruling that African Americans had no rights, that warranted respect, that slaves were property, not persons entitled to legal protection, and that it was unconstitutional to bar or limit slavery even outside of the South. This case was known as the Scott versus Sanford case. This case was so important that it made its way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Their decision in this case was widely deemed to be the worst decision to ever be made by the Supreme Court. The article then goes on to state Scott subsequently sued for his freedom, claiming that his bondage was legally terminated because he had lived for a long time in a free area, the pre-1858 statehood territory of Minnesota. This part of the country had been designated by early federal law, the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, as off limits to slavery, a designation confirmed by the Missouri Compromise of 1820, which barred slavery in the northern portion of the 1803 Louisiana Purchase. Before statehood in 18 state for the sake of tourism and other economic interests. I think that it is hard for many of us to think that Minnesota could have been a slave state once upon a time. Surely back in 1860, this could have been a possibility. The reasoning behind this was that Southerners wanted to cross through the state without the risk of getting their slaves taken away. According to an article by Carrie Levin in June 2020, and a book titled Slavery's Reach by Christopher Lehman, it states in 1860, Minnesota had just elected a Republican governor because the Republican Party opposed slavery. Lehman said Southerners were worried that if they continued visiting, their slaves would be emancipated. Due to this, they decided to have a vote, which states 600 residents of Stillwater, St. Anthony, and St. Paul signed a petition. A proposal went to the state legislature but failed. The vote was 29-5 in the Senate and 51-18 in the House. The votes weren't even close, and the majority of the Minnesota legislature that voted yes was only because they were making money by doing business with slaveholders. After slavery was abolished, many places became a sundown town, which was a place that was an entire community or even a county that for decades was all white on purpose. These towns would make it nearly impossible for Black Americans to live their lives in peace. Several Minnesota towns were sundown towns, including cities in Goodhue County, Red Wing, and Pine Island. They would intimidate and physically remove the Black families out of town with enough force that they wouldn't want to return. These Jim Crow laws were ways to segregate not only Blacks, but also other minorities from being part of the community. Towns like these made it impossible for minorities to put roots and create a homestead for their families, which is why there is a lack of diversity in many areas. This negative thinking about Blacks and other minorities being out after dark to cause trouble is why, to this day, we have racial profiling. Our community has years of embedded negative stereotypes about minorities that need to be eradicated and replaced with richness minorities bring to our community. How could someone be so cruel? How could someone watch people just run out a family of people out of town? How could they just let something so inhumane happen? This will never be fully understood. Due to Juneteenth and much more history, we have been able to evolve and create much more diversity in culture and let people be seen as people, not property. It gives us a chance to be seen more than the color of our skin, but as the person we choose to be. Happy Juneteenth.
Cracks and holes, acid rain falls upon those signs and lights. Further confuse the blind. Abuse, obtuse, struggle is defined. The new plantations are cities, the red line communities, the fast foods and retail hospitality. The suburbs are kept running by the service of those living in the ghetto. The suburbs are the grounds of which all the American dreams, so-called realities lie. The suburb wasn't actually meant for you and I. The suburb was meant to be white. The long mazes of pavement, old malls, new strips of corporate hospitals and high-end fat drip. Dispensaries, roundabouts but barely any bus stops. Uber your ass here and I want my service with a smile. I don't care how hard it was for you to get here. The suburbs, the new era of slavery, isn't one you can just blatantly see. The new era of smile and keep working, while we just barely keep you alive by any means. The new rules are the same old dressing in blue. They all the same and y'all have been taken for fools. New clothes won't help you fit in if you don't have the knowledge to understand the rules. You are still a fool. And your penny for your thoughts got you nowhere but rule. The new plantation is the playgrounds they feel they can roam, come and go when they want, build and demolish just for fun. New projects, to rid their eyes of the old projects. We are not your projects. We are not your sheep. And the walls you try to bind us with won't hold us all. We ain't all asleep. Rail lines with low clearance, abandoned transportation plans, interstate segments, neighborhoods, sparks racial debates. And when we flex and demand room, we thought to be unruly, wrong, and unjust. Who's gonna stand and call these lies as such? The game has been had too long. The plantation is an experiment. Everyone knows it's wrong and has been shown. And the world has taken notice. The world changes focus, and we're left to flex. The new plantation is a new plantation at best. Cracks and holes, acid rain falls upon those signs and lights. Further confuse the blind, abuse, obtuse, struggle is defined. speak truth. The best thing you can do for me is be true to you. Talk mindfully, talk silently, not violently. Don't make sure your words are sung in the right key.
A letter to my mentors. Malcolm said a man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. They didn't tell you who he said. I do not expect the white media to create positive black images. Or that Fred preached, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can never kill the revolution. But they were sure to tell us about Dr. King's I Had a Dream speech. A letter to my people. Get up, nigga. Let me holler at you real quick. First of all, I'ma let you know that y'all really missed. And probably never gonna be anybody better, real shit. All through my life, y'all inspire me, dawg. The way y'all died, I really cried. I really wanna set fires for real for the way they kill and lie.
Blown away from him. I'm a mother. I'm a mother, got no ass. And you can say that this child, 60 shots. Black mother, black
No
mother.
good thugs shoot slugs and children. Thugs shoot slugs and children. Thugs shoot slugs and children.
Blown away.
Jazzy. Say, really gonna be through it, just like you. Police hate me, the government officials, they hate me too. People compare me to y'all, but I never asked for that glory. But I do feel like we one of a kind with similar stories. They call this movement shit the new get rich or die lying wannabe wankster shit. William O'Neill's and L. Sharpton's, this farce of a movement. Half these activists wouldn't even make it if y'all was still alive. Dudes y'all used to march with, they blew up for real. That boy Bobby Rush, he eating, but ain't nowhere near a bill. They killed John Lewis and gave him a postage stamp. Say Huey, when I hear you preach to him, I wish that you was alive. Malcolm, they charged me with fake crimes and maced me in my cell, and still I'm alive and get high every day, LOL. When I fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well. When I fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell.
I offer this poem to my melanated friends and family. Racists say you are lazy or crazy, stupid and incapable. Fuck them. To try to correct them is damn near impossible, but believe in your worth. You know it's true that the whole race of humans began with Eve, who looked just like you. Don't let them say they will give more rights. They can't give you something that is already yours just by you being you. Build your empire. Build your generational wealth. Under the radar, you'll continue to grow, not in corporate settings designed to continue to set you back, but in your own entrepreneurial realms. Rise, flourish, shine, and new generations will be hopeful by seeing you, their strong and successful role model.
I mean, the red, white, and blue is for us. We made this country, we built this country, and the red, white, and blue for the Juneteenth flag was specifically chosen because we are Americans too. We are the original Americans. The indigenous people are the original Americans, but we mixed with them. We are just as much American as Europeans that settled here, and it's part of why those colors are in the flag. Like, we're Americans too, are we not?
Right? Oh no, we're American.
But so the black, green, and red is definitely a flag that we should rep and wear by all means. any day of the year. We can wear the Pan-African flag and tout that flag any day of the year. Actually, matter of fact, I have one flying from my wall every day. But for Juneteenth, that's not what that flag is for. You can fly the Pan-African flag any other day of the year because it's for Pan-Africanism. The Juneteenth flag is specifically for today, and it's specifically to commemorate the day that enslaved people, quote-unquote enslaved people, were quote-unquote free from Galveston, Texas, which was the last place that people were still being enslaved 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which was supposed to, on paper, free the enslaved. He didn't want to necessarily free slaves. And in fact, he gave incentives to slave states to join the Union so that he could keep the country together. Like, if he could keep the country together by keeping slavery, he would have did that. He only abolished slavery, quote unquote, so that he can try and keep the country together, or persuade these southern states to join the Union.
That's significant.
And some did.
To black people, right? But today, see, the problem isn't, and I don't care if people want to get frustrated, but we got to start separating.
Yep.
Well, you know what I'm saying? Because you can't, that's
different
part of the problem.
And we could be Pan-African and Black American. We could be both.
But
we are both.
Right. And but there's got to be, I'm just going to take it, I'll just whatever, but is that the Pan-African flag was created in 1920 with support of Marcus Garvey, who was the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, in response to a racially derogatory song and the realization that every race has a flag but the blacks.
When you know better, you do better, right? When you find out, or someone is telling you or informing you on what Juneteenth is, what the origins are, what the significance of the flag and the colors and the backstory is, you get informed and you do better.
Because I really didn't even, that was something that I didn't even look up. Strawberries and watermelon.
You know what's crazy? Like, no one taught me any of this. I did my research, bro. Right. I wanted to know what Juneteenth was about. I've heard of Juneteenth growing up, but my family never celebrated it. I always looked up history because I was fascinated about history growing up, but my family didn't celebrate it. It wasn't until 2020 that I took it upon myself to dive into learning about Juneteenth. I took it upon myself. Not everyone is me. I get that.
Right. Because I took it upon myself.
Right. But my point is that when I went to research it, I went on Google, bro, and all the information was right there.
Right.
Red cake, watermelon, the flag, all the information I needed was right there. All it takes, y'all, is 2 seconds to get you on your phone every day watching videos, people twerking and playing games and doing dumb, stupid challenges and shit. But you can't go and you'll be the first person to show up at the Juneteenth event to eat food and dance to, no offense to you, Bobby Brown, because this is on the top of my head. But you can't go on your same phone that you looked up at that event at to look up what Juneteenth actually means. Please tell me how that makes any motherfucking sense. I'll wait. Educating is not popular, but I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to preach the gospel. I'm here to tell the truth, the motherfucking truth, and the whole truth. I'm here to spit the facts. I'm here to educate, and I'm here to put out history. I don't care if it's not popular. I don't care about the views and likes. It's out there. And if you want to learn, boop, you can check the link. Boop, you can go on Google and check your goddamn self.
Certain products are that they're supporting us. No, what you're doing is supporting capitalism.
And you're supporting white people that are capitalizing off of
right,
us.
off black people. Right. There ain't no, that's what I don't
So
understand.
in essence, what you're doing is helping to perpetuate the same ills that we're claiming we want to get away from. What you're doing is actually contributing to the same system that harmonizes, demonizes, criminalizes, and kills us on a regular basis. You also talked about the Juneteenth flag being fairly new. It is fairly new.
It is.
So is Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa came out in the 70s. These things are fairly new because black people weren't able to participate in the capitalist system in the sense of being able to contribute and being able to claim and have these things, right?
Right.
Were we able to have a Juneteenth flag in 1865? in 1867, in 1872, if there was one, it would have had to been kept secret.
Right.
The 90s were a point of immense growth and cultural appreciation for Black people at that time frame. So there was a big sense of pride. You got a tons of, like, come on, you got your Aishas and your Javantes, mainly come from the 90s because of sense of pride of people having this sense of pride in Africanism and pride in Blackness, right?
Right.
So during that time, you had people. That's why during that time you had the flag made. It doesn't make it any less significant because it was made in 1997. Just like Kwanzaa isn't any less significant just because it was made in the 70s. Significant to Black American culture, descendants of the enslaved, is significant to us because it is things for us that we created for us. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have anything. And we have history on these shores of America. We are African Americans. We have history here that we should be proud of and proud to commemorate. There's triumph in that struggle that we should be commemorating and holding true to ourselves and talking about. American enslavement. We came from atrocities, we came from turmoil, but also we came from triumph because we're still here. Our bloodlines are still here. We survived and we're still doing what we can to thrive. That to me speaks to the heart of what Juneteenth is and is about.
Emancipation Day, Freedom Day, Second Independence Day, and Jubilee Day. A park in Houston was bought specifically for the Juneteenth celebration. Richard Allen, Elias Dibble, Jack Yates, and Richard Brock bought a 10-acre parcel of land. This was in 1872, and it was only for $800. The park is now known as the Emancipation Park, located in Houston, Texas. Owners of the land were former slaves, and they got it specifically for the celebration of Juneteenth. In 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. organized the Poor People's Campaign. It was an effort for the poor people in the U.S. to gain equality and economic justice. The movement was purposely done by King to coincide with the date of freedom celebrations in D.C. Those who were at the march took the same kind of celebration to their towns and states. Soon enough, the holiday was reborn. There was a portion in General Order Number 3 advising the freedmen and women to stay with their owners. The freed slaves will not be given any support if they become idle anywhere in the country, so they were given advice to stay with their owners and work quietly. It does not come for free, as the employer should pay them appropriate wage and compensation. Despite the recommendation from the order to remain in their owner's place, former slaves left their post. When they heard the original reading, the following weeks after the proclamation that they are already free, they left their state in great numbers. They went away to look for better opportunities and reunite with family members.
I think people don't see that we're not so free. I mean, it's changed forms. It's a different iteration of slavery. But I can't help but think, like 1898, one black person saying to another black person, things are great today. We're not slaves anymore. Everything's equal. Everything's right in the world. Things are good. Be grateful for what you have. It's the kind of stuff that I hear today, and I can't help but wonder if they were saying the same things then, not realizing that we still had ways to go, and we can admit that we have a ways to go today, but we don't give ourselves enough credit to know that like we don't emphasize enough that there's still like a ways to go with a lot of progress needs to be made, especially when it comes to equity, equality, liberty, freedom.
The proclamation announcement did not sit well with the slave owners in Texas. They were not eager to part with them as they felt like the African American enslaved people were their property. When the freed slaves tried to leave, some were beaten and even murdered. Their former owners would catch the slaves swimming across the river. They would heartlessly shoot them. The flag has a bursting star in the center with the color blue on top and the red on the lower portion. The star in the center pays respect to Texas, and the bursting star signifies new people and freedom. The colors blue, red, and white echo the flag of America, which symbolizes that the people who became enslaved were also Americans. Through the years, the celebration of Juneteenth has evolved from just a usual gathering of family and friends. It has grown into a tradition. In some states in the US even celebrate it with pageants and contests like Miss Juneteenth. Celebrations for the commemoration vary, and some would have marches, parades, and barbecues, while other states in the US would have prayers, Juneteenth flag raisings, and public service awards. General Order Number 3, as read by the General Granger, said, quote, "The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere." Most free people weren't terribly interested in staying with the people who had enslaved them, even if the pay was involved. In fact, some were leaving before Granger had even finished making the announcement. What followed became known as the scatter, when droves of formerly enslaved people left the state to find family members or more welcoming accommodations in northern regions. Texas is a large state, and General Granger's order and the troops needed to enforce it was slow to spread. According to historian James Smallwood, many enslavers deliberately suppressed the information until after the harvest, and some even beyond that. In July 1867, there were 2 separate reports of enslaved people being freed, and one report of a Texas horse thief named Alex Simpson, whose enslaved people were only freed after his hanging in 1868. In the 1870s, former enslaved people pulled together $800 and purchased 10 acres of land, which they deemed Emancipation Park. And until the 1950s, it was the only public park and swimming pool in the Houston area that was open to Black Americans. In southern states, the holiday is traditionally celebrated with oral histories and readings, red soda water or strawberry soda, and barbecues. Some states serve up Marcus Garvey salad with red, green, and black beans in honor of the Black nationalists. Rodeos have also become part of the tradition in the Southwest, while contests, concerts, and parades are a common theme across the country. Juneteenth is about my blackness, not my faraway dreams of African bliss. Africans jump ship rather than submit. My kin don't know that shit. Rather, chains, forced birth, brands, demands, rape, and other problems for us to grapple with. Juneteenth, Emancipation Day, to be emancipated is debated. Though it's a day to commemorate the enslaved in America, present-day confusion smears the narrative and dilutes the intention. Interventions are needed because I'm tired of the ignorance. We are red, white, and blue on this day, on any day, though this day is for us, the descendants of the formerly enslaved. So why do we celebrate with African affirmations and justification when the trauma and pain and so-called freedom, everything, happened here? We have something to give us understanding of self, and we still choose to latch on to something else. Our history is here. We are American. Our history is partly strife and trauma, generations of pain, torture ingrained, and we shouldn't be ashamed. This day is for us to be proud and learn it, not celebrate a continent. Them Africans come here with hope and pride and slide on by us. Why do we try to be anything but who we are? We built this country, but we don't act like we own it. We let everyone else tell us what to do. And when one of us tries to inform you that you're ill-informed and there's another way, we as a group do a dance and walk away. But complain when there's no change. Unity and kinship, seek truth and knowledge, and heed history. There's a clear way for us to get some things abolished. We need more understanding and true meaning, and I can't help but feel like we are getting further and further from poking through that glass ceiling. One can hope, one can dream, though like rebellions of past times, we need to unite. That is how we rise. System degrade. System of pain. System that makes acid rain. Oppression and hate. Constant shame. Intersection of numb and pain. And grief with bottled rage and unlimited amounts of anxiety fuel a camaraderie of envisioned change. We see the ways. Though the mindless, ignorant thoughts of hate, no real minds they can't and refuse, cause they choose to be lazy, walking the sheep to the ledge. So I don't want to watch it all. They all seem so numb, they can't feel the wind if it would fall. The journey of truth, the air of ruse, fix your fuse, count your rules, not your dues. Folks got it backwards, the next life, what will you do? Cuffs and chains, same thing, numbers of fabric of nature, layers in society, woo me with security, don't bore me with foolery. I know you're informing me. I stepped too close, and now they warning me. Watch your throws, watch them bows. All skin ain't the same. Not everyone you supposed to know. Woo. Me. And now they warning me. Chains and cuffs, cotton and war buffs, trail of tears, Holocaust, transatlantic fears, countless lost years. Dust off the shelf, Black Lives Matter still is here.
It is a fact if it acts as if it is a fact. If it acts as if it is a fact, it is a fact. That's what it says.
These are the cards that were dealt. And instead of looking to a place that, yes, our blood lines are ultimately from, we're new peoples. We're not the same peoples as those peoples. Have we derived from them? Yes, but we've created our own culture and we are our own people. Just, Indians, Africans from Africa, and Europeans combined and formed a melting pot to form what we know of today as Puerto Ricans. We know of them as Puerto Ricans. We call them Puerto Ricans, but yet people get upset when we deem ourselves black, or when we try to distinguish ourselves from Africans. We're no longer African. We have mixed and melted into our own melting pot. Black Americans are only, at most, 65% black, 65% African descent. Excuse me. So that means that the other remaining percent can be indigenous, European, Asian, and the ethnicity of being Latin or Hispanic. So we have become our own race of people, and I feel Juneteenth commemorates that. It honors it, and it celebrates it, because no one else and no other holiday is. So why would we take the one holiday that is for us and our people and say, oh no, it's that's not what the holiday was intended for. And that's like telling someone that they can celebrate Mexico on the 4th of July. That makes no sense. And when someone gets upset, who's American, and says, why are you celebrating Mexico on the day for America's independence? That's insulting. And they go, oh, well, that's your interpretation. You just let people be. They're allowed to do what they want. What sense does that make whatsoever? We let people run all over us as foundational black people, as descendants of American slaves. It's the common standard for everyone to just walk all over us, run all over us, talk about us as a form of self-hate. These are my opinions, but this is also how I feel about Juneteenth. This is also how I feel about where we are.